Hello, and welcome back to the Vintage Super League. I'm Rich Shea, joined by the current and possibly last Vintage World Champion, Brian Kelly.
Hi, everybody.
Uh, Brian, that was a pretty rough loss there. It looked in Game 3 as though everything were going your way, everything were lining up well, and then Jace arrived and defeated your genie, and then
Uh,
it
there
all
was yeah,
crashed.
there was some oath dysfunction. Sometimes everything's going well, and then you draw the oath creature that you want to oath up. You have it in your hand. Um, that's one of the problems with oath of druids. If you don't manage your list, you can mill yourself. You
Hmm.
can have a hand that has like 3/8 drops in it that's completely dysfunctional. You can die to opposing spirit tokens. So people who work on Oath Druids, they always try to manage those things. And I used to play Tyrant Oath, and he's really good in prison lists. But since I made this list, like I've actually been tweaking it, and that thing, he's out of there. I mean, he's out of there. If I could play that
Hmm.
list again, there would be no Tyrant. I always want the Sun Titan. The Sun Titan's really good. And Randy played extraordinarily well. I mean, it's not
Randy
just the
did.
fact that my
Yes, I
draws,
agree.
you said before that they were the worst possible draws. They weren't the worst. It could have been worse. Could have had a Spear of Resistance. Maybe that would be insult to injury. Or
Didn't you
the
draw
third and
Sphere
fourth.
Resistance at one point? No.
I did. Yeah, I think that was game one.
um,
My opponents they like to open on ancestral turn one every game,
it's true.
and ugh, well,
Not
I'm
gonna lie,
I'm very
when
happy
you strip
because
mined
it
his
bothered me
entire
seeing Randy.
when you strip mined his entire board away, and then you had your genie friend arrive, I really thought you were gonna take that, but you proceeded to draw no spells whatsoever, and Randy just dove through that window and found a way out.
Yeah, and I was mind twisted every game for one or two black men.
It's
But I am very happy for Randy. He played excellently, and I did not want to see him at risk for relegation because Randy's so fundamental to the Vintage Super League. I mean, he's the progenitor, he's the promoter, he's so enthusiastic, he brings a lot to it. It would just be
oh
hard
yeah,
to imagine. Mm-hmm.
no, I
So,
agree with that. I think Randy's done a lot for Vintage by basically creating this league, and that's been a huge thing for all of us in the Vintage community.
definitely.
Um, so no, but based on that has to be a tough loss for you. It I know I would be frustrated if I were so far ahead and then just collapsed.
I'm used to it happening with all types of Oath of Druids decks. So, I'm okay. It doesn't seem to happen with Gush decks. I mean, you have a Gush deck, everything is so.
Yeah. Oh no, Gush
Perfect. The
makes
only thing that can
things
go wrong
really
is you thought
smooth.
not seer, that you don't swords. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Gush
Gush
makes
decks are
everything nice and smooth. It's like a giant Zamboni.
yeah. And we have an exciting match coming up here now. We have Shuhei versus Kai, so that is uh,
Yeah, they're two great players.
the artifact kill deck versus Oath of Druids. Mm-hmm. I wonder if Shuhei's spell snares. Intriguingly, he added 3 spell snares to his list, which I can appreciate because you can nail a Sphere of Resistance or a Revoker or a Hate Bear that's cast without a Cavern.
Or a
So that
Painter
might have been
Servant.
exactly. You can get the Painter Serving in this matchup. And then we'll see if Kai gets to live the dream by having Painter Servant in play and Pyroblast taking over the Druids.
So it's it's also possible that Kai could just use Grindstone to finish off Shuhei, who oaths away most of his library. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
it
And
could
then
be
he'll be
used as
wishing.
intended.
Something like that happened last week. Something very similar.
Well, running out of cards is an issue. I know that you have Scroll Rack to prevent that from happening, but
Yes,
it's an issue that every Oath design has to consider in some way, shape, or form.
absolutely. Because Oath players, well, all vintage players, they want to have the most efficient cards possible, and that's usually not something that costs 8, especially when that's 4 black, 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 black. So there's a temptation to run a very small amount of Oath creatures. I think some people would rather just have one Grizzlebrand and have everything else be business spells. But when you do that, you will be punished. You'll definitely be punished. I've been punished on 3 creatures with proper management. Now that's very rare, but it happens. If I go down to 2 creatures, forget about it. And if I cut down on the management, it will still happen. I was in an event once, and I managed to slither Orchard Oath past Justin Kohler, who always has every counterspell you can imagine.
As well
And
as turn 1 Jace every game.
he does. He has that very frequently. And I ended up drawing all of my Oath creatures. So I had done all of that work, and there was an inoperable Oath with the Druids in play. It was like we fought over the Oath. He was playing Landstill that day. And then I could never keep an Orchard around because he would waste it and swords the token. And by the time I finally got it to connect, I had drawn them all. So, yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like we're ready to go to our match now. All right. And wow, is that Shuhei without a turn 1 Oath? If you're Shuhei, do you mulligan this because you know you always are supposed to have a turn 1 Oath, or do you keep it and settle for your measly turn 2 Oath?
Shuhei's hand is very serviceable. Kai's hand is not good.
Well, I guess Shuhei could always preordain into a Lotus, which is probably what will happen. I'm a little surprised Kai kept. Maybe he's afraid of the turn. You know, I guess since Shuhei has had Oath of Druids in every game this season, I guess you keep that if you're Kai. But under any other circumstance, that's just not a great hand. You have a land that taps for nothing, and 3 lands, and then a turn. You don't even have a deterministic turn for Jace.
Right. See, I knew Shuhei, he's going to find Force of Will, so he's going to play Orchard Oath next turn.
Oh, 2 Force of Wills with double Force backup.
That's convenient.
Yeah, okay. So he'll settle for the turn 2 Oath. He'll condescend to take that because he'll have double Force backup. So, okay.
Let's see if Kai draws. Nope, he didn't draw Black Lotus.
Kai drew a land. Well.
All right.
You know, sometimes, Brian, this is how Oath of Druids works.
Yeah.
I understand why Shuhei has not switched decks. He was on this for the plan. He was on this for trimester 1. He's going into this for trimester 2. Why would you ever change this?
I don't know.
There's
it's a good deck. I've heard about it.
Yeah, you've heard of Kelly Oath before?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And then, now Kai probably wishes he had a Cabal Therapy. It is so rude. The card is so rude. The 2 rudest cards in the game: Cabal Therapy and Phyrexian Revoker. Someone said that the nightmare for me would be playing against Dredge, having my whole hand Cabal Therapy, and then having someone Dread return or Phyrexian Revoker, because I really loathe it. Every time it's on the table, I want to fry it or swords it or do anything to it. I love Fire and Ice on 2 Phyrexian Revokers. It's one of my favorite plays ever because that card is just so sickening. All right, so shit has oathed up Grizzlebrand, and if he wants to, he can play Time Walk with Force backup.
Yeah, I guess that sounds like it might not be entirely unreasonable. Looked like Shuei's hand turned into a bunch of code there for a minute. It was more cards than our cameras can handle.
Yeah. I wouldn't even
Captured all
bother
that.
trying to oath. He can.
No, you,
I mean, he has a second oath creature, but there's no reason to even risk it being the last card.
So is your plan if you're Shuhei to try to find dig through time here? To try to set up a 5-card cushion?
I think he can preordain. Oh wait, he has the Auric in his hand.
There he is.
So
There's the Salvager himself. So I can't see if he has a Black Lotus in the graveyard, but if he does, then that's it.
he has a very stacked graveyard, but I guess the Lotus isn't in it. I think the Auric at this point is just a formality.
So does a formal Auric Salvager show up wearing a tie and a suit?
You'll have to ask him. I don't know how he dresses when he's not on camera. And you think I would, because I play that card in every deck, but we haven't had that kind of practice session.
I understand. Well, it looks like Kai's not going to find out.
I thought this would be a longer, more engaging match. But sometimes...
No, you just have to have a turn 1 or turn 2 oath every game. And then have more forces than your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's easy. So, if you're Kai, what do you have? Is Ensnaring Bridge here a card you want?
No, definitely not.
Would you ever bring in an Ensnaring Bridge under any circumstances?
That's such a broad criteria. Under any circumstances, I guess the answer is yes, but realistically, no.
It just doesn't seem like a Brian Kelly card.
No, it doesn't do anything. It's like no rod. It does nothing.
It does nothing. It looks like Reshape is getting reshaped into something else. Looks like a Red Elemental Blast.
It's probably a good call.
And what does... I guess Shu has Ancient Grudge, which is ridiculously good in this matchup. Ancient Grudge... just...
Oh, what is going... Wow.
Oh, Kai is cutting Grindstone?
He cut the entire Painter Stone ensemble.
Wow.
The Painters. So the Pyroblasts are significantly weakened.
Yeah.
All on Blightsteel Colossus, Vault Key, and Planeswalkers, which could work. I mean, you could have...
Far be it for me to second-guess Kai, but it looks like being able to Red Blast Oath of Druids would be a powerful thing you might want to be able to do in this matchup.
I agree. Now, I don't want to sound negative, though, but I think I would keep the Painters in so that you could Pyroblast not only Oath of Druids, but Auric Salvagers and Grizzlebrand. They're very difficult permanents to deal with.
Yeah, Grixis can't really handle those in any meaningful way. I think there are bounce spells, and then there's that card from EDH that you shuffle a card in and hope that nothing horrible happens. But
I don't play much EDH, so I'm not sure which one it is.
So there's this 1 red and 2 colorless instant. You pick a permanent.
Chaos Warp.
Chaos Warp, right.
Chaos
you
Warp.
Shuffle your opponent's Oath of Druids in, and then he gets a Grizzlebrand. And then Shuhei cut an Ancient Grudge, which also doesn't make sense to me.
I wouldn't do that.
No, I wouldn't either. Ancient Grudge is so good in this match. So...
Okay. I think Kai has to mulligan.
Yeah. Kai's hand would be okay if he had Painter's Servant, I guess. But...
although Shuhei would oath off of it, and he'd Pyroblast it. Wait. Shuhei has the explosives. So I think Shuhei wants to play explosives on 2. Because I always go into a control role against Vault Key when I'm playing Oath of Druids, because they can win suddenly and more quickly.
That's true.
and their deck doesn't have as much inherent awkwardness as any Oath deck. They may have a Tinker Robot, but they're not giving their opponent win conditions with Orchards, that puts their Planeswalkers in the defense. They're not drawing more than one card that costs more than 8. So I actually consider Vault Key a scary match when I'm playing the Oath of Druids.
Interesting. Very interesting. So if I were on the other end of this, if I were Shuhei, I would just jam out that Oath of Druids next turn and hope for the best.
That's a really good question. Because it's inoperable without the Orchard.
Yes, it is. But once you slide that through, you get the security of knowing that your opponent's, that if nothing else happens, you'll eventually win. It gives you measure of inevitability, especially since Kai can't really get rid of it on account of him not playing Chaos Warp and boarding out his Painter Servants.
Right.
Of course, you don't know that he boarded out his Painter Servants.
Yeah. Kai has the Cage. Shuhei can use his explosives on that. Or in the mid game, he can ignore the Cage and up the Ariok.
Mm-hmm. Oh. So is he going to tap out for the Cage here? No, that wouldn't make sense.
No.
So I still like slamming down Oath of Druids. That's what I would do. I can also see
I think you're right. I wonder if Shuhei will actually look for a third land.
To Flusterstorm it?
Flusterstorm. Yeah.
That's perfectly reasonable. We see he has a Jace there. Jace? Oh, and Force.
Jace and Force of Will.
It looks like he's bottoming the Jace.
Yeah, that's a good call. The Jace is many turns away.
Oh, he bottomed the Force, too.
Oh. I don't like Force of Will. I think the card is generally bad. But I'll keep it if I have a Flusterstorm in my hand in a blue match.
Right. I like keeping Force there. The Force there it prevents terrible things from happening.
I agree, Rich. I like keeping the Force there because he has double Flusterstorm to back it up. The problem with Force of Will, aside from 2 for 1-ing yourself, is that it doesn't resolve reliably anymore in blue matches. It's always Flusterstormed, Pyroblasted, Spell Pierce, you name it. Mana Drain, which is a nightmare scenario. But with 2 Flusterstorms, Force of Will actually functions. So it's...
Oh. That's a little strange to me, running out the problem with running this out here is that not only can Kai see this coming from a mile away, but it gives Kai a lot of time to set up.
That's true.
I think I'd rather have just gotten an Oath on the table there. Especially because Kai might force it, and it's great if you can get a Force for it there. Because you have a second copy.
Right. Did he Vampiric for Thirst for Knowledge? Interesting.
No, his Vamp was Flusterstormed.
Oh, he didn't. I'm sorry. That it was.
He drew Thirst the old-fashioned way.
On my end, it has the picture of you over where the Thirst.
Yes.
Thirst is good.
I understand. I wouldn't mind actually being drawn on the art of Thirst for Knowledge. That'd be great. That is one of my favorites. This is interesting. Shuhei is playing Preordain. Not only does that give him more options, it also would build up the storm count in case he wants to defend his Ancestral with Flusterstorm.
Right.
And it even looks like it's going to draw out Kai's...
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no. This is going to be spectacular for Shuhei.
Oh, wow. Shuhei is going to Ancestral, Kai is going to Pyroblast it, and then Shuhei is going to Flusterstorm, the Thirst for Knowledge, and the Pyroblast.
Wow. Yeah.
So Shuhei is going to have an Ancestral and a Preordain, and Kai is going to have nothing in his hand.
So, and Kai concedes to this. So that was That was actually great. So, so if you think about the cards that exist in Magic, there's a card that gives you a 1/1, a 2/2, and a 3/3. There's Cone of Flame, which deals 1 damage, 2 damage, and 3 damage. We just saw Shuhei there getting a 1 for 1, a 2 for 1, and a 3 for 1 all at once for 3 mana.
Yeah, it was incredible. That is big time Flusterstorm blowout. Big time.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was expert use of Flusterstorm right there.
Hmm. Are you excited for your match?
I'm terrified for my match. Smedden and I are playing a 60 card mirror match for game one, and then post sideboard, Smedden has cards to bring in, and I mostly don't. So I think he has Wormcoil Engine and Umazawa's Jide and Crucible, and I just have Crucible. So I think it's certainly not good for me.
But that doesn't mean you'll lose.
It does not mean I'll lose. No, no, because we don't play Magic by just seeing who has the better deck, do we? That's not how Magic works. I can always hope that he plays a Mana Crypt.
I was well played.